You know, sometimes my job can be real tough as a true red-blooded American patriot, brother, as well as a ever-suffering Faze fan. It's tough to sit down today and talk about the recap of the quarterfinals of the Blast Open at London, because not only did M80 fall at the hands of the ne'er-do-wells at MOUZ, despite it being a very hard-fought series, Faze simply couldn't keep up with the G2 Hunter era. Let us sift through the carnage and prep the battlefield for the semifinals to begin anew tomorrow. If you guys enjoy this kind of coverage, you can show me by leaving a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, help me 10K subs by the end of the year. Also, follow me on twitch.tv/LionHeartZ2, help me get to 1,000 followers over there so I can co-stream events in the future. Thank you guys so much, and before we get started, I'd like to thank today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by SkinsMonkey, a CS2 trading website. You put in the skins that you want to trade, you select what you want, you use my code LionHeartZ for up to $5 off, or click the top link in the description, and boom, new drip. Nice. You can also use my code for a 35% deposit bonus if you want to buy with real money. And they have a free section with cool giveaways. So check the top link in the description, use my code to buy 15 Dragon Lores to let them know I sent you their way, and thank you to SkinsMonkey for sponsoring this video. With that, let's talk about M80 versus MOUZ. Obviously, going into this, as we highlighted in yesterday's prediction video, which hopefully you watched it, right? I'm watching you. You better have watched it. Anyways, I highlighted there that M80 were gonna have a monumental task in front of them no matter what, but one thing I highlighted a lot was that the veto could have been a way for them to have a way into this match. Now, the veto kind of went how I expected it to, but there was one key thing that I think MOUZ kind of left themselves open to, and that was the possibility of a first pick overpass out of M80, which is what they've done to a few teams at this event. I said that MOUZ should have floated Dust 2 because M80 are very unlikely to pick it themselves, and even if they did, you have the firepower advantage on that map, so why be worried about it? You can just leave that, ban Overpass first, and then ban Dust 2 in the secondary wave if you really want it off the board. Instead, M80 banned Nuke, which is what we expected, MOUZ banned Dust 2, but M80 didn't punish them by taking the risk on Overpass. They went to more neutral ground on Ancient, which honestly, even though M80 were close to winning that map, I think left the door a little too open for MOUZ themselves, and instead I think M80 should have taken them to a place where each team is more uncomfortable and they can play more unpredictable. The reality is, despite MOUZ's many issues on the T side, they're one of the best CT side Ancient teams in the world, and I'd rather see them sweat out on Overpass than play something they're very comfortable going about. Now of course, that is easier said than done. Def is a fantastic coach, and I'm sure he weighed all these options very adequately and talked with Sin before the match was prepped. It's just, in my opinion, I think there was a better way to go about this veto because you knew Mirage was going to be the second map every time, and even though you smurfed on MOUZ there, that was by no means the expected outcome. Maybe there's a world where if you pick Overpass first, you could 2-0 MOUZ before we even get to Inferno. All that is to say, we start off on Ancient with M80 on the T side, and they immediately had some problems. Outside of a 3-round run early on in the first half, it was MOUZ firmly in the driver's seat throughout the entirety of their CT side play. They would run up an 8-4 half lead and routinely smash M80 on their very simplistic takes on map control. M80 are just trying to burst into space or slow the round down. They're not often throwing many mix-ups, so with the way that MOUZ are so good at controlling mid, it really limits M80's options of rotating around and getting Lake very activated. It just felt like the round wins that were coming out of M80 were off the back of either MOUZ mistakes or heroics on their part. There wasn't a whole lot of rounds being won straight up, just out of good tactics or good executes. Now, despite that 8-4 deficit heading into the second half, the script would be flipped pretty strongly because once again, MOUZ put up a very mediocre T-side effort. First off, the firepower for M80 really started to show off, with Lake starting off the second half with a pistol round ace with the dualies. And then M80 multiplies momentum by taking advantage of chaos through moments like round 17 here, where after about 25-30 seconds, Brolin's going to take the first pick of the round on Swisher into caves, MOUZ are going to reformulate and try and take mid control, Slags are going to burst open the red room smoke and take out Xerxin, then a lot of shit's going to happen fast. Hex is going to take out Spinks, Brolin's going to take out Hext, Lake's going to take out Brolin, and it's going to leave Torji and Jimmy rotating into B in a 2v3 situation. Bomb goes down, Torji's on site, Jimmy's in cave, and then M80 are going to wait out the clock very, very long to give Lake time to go around and get back into cave himself. But most of all, while waiting longer until the retake lowers the margin of error for themselves, it does the same thing for MOUZ. And as the timer gets low, they jump on it, Lake pushes through caves, get killed by Jimmy, but with Jimmy distracted, that leaves Torji vulnerable on the bomb site for Sin and Slacks to take it. Slacks hops on the bomb as the timer's getting way too low, but that exposes Jimmy for Sin to push in and get the final kill. M80 kept up the steady effort all the way into a tie game 10-10 before MOUZ could really shape things up to close out the match. They'd win 3 straight rounds, the first one being a very heartbreaking affair for M80. Things are going to start off with Hext and Snax accelerating through A main, something they'd only done a handful of times in this half. Unfortunately, Hext gets caught on the timing by Xerxin coming back from mid to check the flank, he goes down. Meanwhile, it's a split B coming out of MOUZ on the other side of the map. Lake and Cinder could combine for 3 picks apiece, with Sin getting 2 of them, leaving Torji and the very far away Xerxin in a 2v3, and this is where things go wrong. Sin gets the angle onto Torji on site, starts spamming him through the corner of the pillar, but misses his spray and goes down, leaving us in a 2v2 and giving Torji room to get off the bomb site and rotate to A. Sin had the first shot here, he could have killed Torji, stranded the bomb, and that would have been the end of the round, almost 100% guaranteed. However, almost only works in horseshoes and hand grenades, so the round stays alive and we're in a 2v2 situation with the bomb going down on A. With Swisher and Slax rotating into CT, they're going to blow open the CT smoke, expose Xerxin on site, and take him down in a trade, leaving Slax in a 1v1 against Torji. Slax is almost 100% convinced that Torji must be in the CT smoke. However, he's just hiding out Temple, and Slax can't really hold his nerve to check other positions. He's too worried about the flank through CT and is unable to convert the round, with MOUZ taking a crucial lead 11-10 and putting M80 far back on the back foot in terms of economy. The next 2 rounds are just going to go very fast, with MOUZ blitzing into A, taking that site control against the very underpowered M80 buy, and forcing the 4 remaining M80 players into immediate save. They group up outside of A main as the bomb timer is going down and try and box MOUZ in to try and force some exit frags, and while they do that, they lose most of their players in the process and only get to cart away a single Galil and an MP9 for their troubles. MOUZ are able to absorb the economic blow and just rebuy fully into the last round of the game. We then get into said final round of the game, where MOUZ are going to go for a very standard mid-execute and get blown up by Lake and Hex, taking an early 5v3 lead. However, Spinks is accelerating past Cave. He's going to cut that lead at the knees, taking care of Hex and Lake in short order, but unfortunately the rest of the M80 players are just too aggressive on the low econ and push through and die. The would-be comeback just getting wiped off the board almost immediately, and MOUZ taking an early 1-0 series lead heading into Mirage. At this point, I'm convinced that M80 have put up a great effort. They're going to bow out here on one of MOUZ's best maps, and it's going to be a 2-0 effort, and it's just time to wait for the Faze vs G2 series. However, I could not legislate for just how awful dog water shit ass terrible the MOUZ T-side could be on Mirage. And that comes to my main point of the video. It doesn't matter the fact that MOUZ won today. The MOUZ that beat M80 today cannot beat Vitality tomorrow. These T-sides are so shit, there is no way one of the best teams in the world in Vitality will not take advantage of that to the exact same extent that M80 did, because if M80 is holding you to a 10-2 first half scoreline, there is a big, gigantic, Brolin-shaped problem in the room. As Maui Snake pointed out excellently on the desk after this game, MOUZ just run the same shit over and over again, the same timings, the same couple of sets. They have their like 5 default plays, and that's all they go to. And where this was exposed the worst was in opening kills, because M80 had opening kill advantage in 11 of 12 first half rounds, with Slax having 6 of them and Lake having 4. That is awful. Brolin and Xerxin go 0 for 3 and 0 for 4 respectively in their own efforts. This is just flat out my #1 issue with this team, and more specifically Brolin as an in-game leader. I feel like I've been beating this drum since he took over. The fragging on MOUZ is excellent. The star power on MOUZ is excellent. But at the end of the day, Brolin is very new to trying to adjust himself when he's behind in series. When MOUZ are succeeding, they're succeeding from ahead. They're just overbearing. They're running you over. But when this team runs into trepidation, it runs into tough times, I don't know where they look for to try and find new avenues to try and approach their T-sides. Because when the plan A goes wrong, it doesn't seem like he has a plan B. I don't even necessarily mean that in the sense of like his mid-rounding is bad. I mean that he doesn't have a way to vary himself out when it comes to what the default call is. They'll run the same sets just over and over and over. He just hasn't been in IGL long enough to really show that like knack for adaptation that other great IGLs, Apex, Fallen, Kerrigan, Alexi B, take your pick, have shown in spades just because they've been doing it longer. And then at the end of the day, I think maybe my biggest indictment of Brolin is that he is a quiet, very small, like shy person, and he isn't the leader of that team. The leader, the personality leader of that team is like Torji. And when you're the IGL and you're not the leader and the captain, I feel like that makes your job infinitely harder, because who are you supposed to turn to when times are tough? Is it Torji or is it Brolin? It can't be both. It has to be one strong voice. Anyways, this T side, awful. I hate it. Terrible. M80 made this way closer than it had to be. They won the Pilster round. They went up 11-2. This game ends 13-9. Obviously, in classic NA fashion, they really struggled to find that match point. The nerves were getting to them. MOUZ are just much stronger on the CT side because of their spread of firepower. There was a lot of just very harsh, brutal contact plays where M80 were just getting blitzed within the first 30 seconds of the round. That's fine. The 2 rounds they did win to secure this map were miracles. Let's go over them. The score is 7-11, and M80 are hunting for pizza and an extra large Slurpee. However, all they're going to find out mid is Spinks putting a barrel down the throat of Lake and taking him out, putting them in a 5v4 disadvantage as they rotate back to A. Sin and Hex are going to push out of Palace. Hex can hit a nice bro to Bolin on triple. Torji's going to take the trade onto Sin coming out of the Palace as well. Slax is going to jump across to the top of stairs like a madman and take the pick back onto Torji, putting us into a 3v3 and giving a window for the bomb to go down. Swishers are going to take out Jimmy swinging CT solo as that bomb goes down, putting us into a 3v2 with just Xerxin and Spinks. However, nearly everybody on M80 is getting chipped to low ass health. Hex gets dropped on the cross to CT, and then Swisher, just by the grace of God, survives like 5 magazines being dumped into triple box by both Xerxin and Spinks. Pure luck, the power of anime, God, whatever you want, that's what keeps Swisher alive. And then one unforced error from MOUZ ends the round, as Xerxin overextends to the top of stairs trying to get a look at Swisher, and that just gives Slax the easiest shot of his career with the op, putting Spinks into a 1v2 that he can't convert. In the very next round, I love the call to just say fuck it, we ball, and rush B as fast as possible. However, it just doesn't work out. Jimmy does a great job staying alive for goddamn ever at jail, and eventually in the post-plant situation, Brolin and Torji do a great job of retaking the bomb site in a 2v2 to keep the game alive. And there's no way around it. This final round of the game is MOUZ getting extremely unlucky and M80 pouncing on the opportunity in front of them, because early on, the mid-exchange is going to cut M80 at the knees and leave Hex and Sin in a 2v4 situation. And if we just pause here for a second as they rotate towards A, consider the board state of the game right now. If M80 lose, it's a 10th round for MOUZ and an almost guaranteed save or a very messy force buy, which means that MOUZ are very likely to get an 11th round. That means whatever happens thereafter, if MOUZ win, we go to overtime. This is the most consequential round for M80. You have to find a way to find some magic to beat MOUZ here, or else the game and the series might be out of reach. And then Sin, the in-game leader, walks out of A main and just hits a perfect double kill entry, taking out the player under balcony and then taking out the player retreating triple box to CT. And with the smoke and the Molotov, they're able to bounce out the rotating players from mid and jungle long enough to get the bomb down and safely double cross both players into CT, which wouldn't be expected by MOUZ more often than not. That allows Sin to play in a position where he's low on health with the op and play self-sacrifice to set up Hex for the great clutch, which is exactly what happens. He goes down, and Hex Team navigates this clutch perfectly to get this round over the line and win the map for M80. The unthinkable, beating MOUZ on their best map, and doing it while blanking their T-side in the process. This is one of M80's best map wins as a team ever. And as unthinkable as it might be, the door is open now. We're going to Inferno, a map that M80 have been finding miracles on the entire event. If there was ever a potential for them to strike out and just David versus Goliath, get one of the biggest upsets on land this year, it is here. Unfortunately, the magic for M80 runs out. They start off on the T side. They're playing against MOUZ's much more dominant CT side effort. I think if M80 started CT side in this game, they are actually, I'll take that risk. If M80 starts CT side, they win this game. That's how little faith I have in MOUZ's T side right now. I think MOUZ would have piss poor momentum. M80 would take a pretty dominant half lead. They'd have some good vibes going into their T side set, and they would approach it with the gusto. the grit, the just the will to win this game. Because the reality is their T side just gets fucking crushed. There's no way around it. They get absolutely stomped out by MOUZ. Just every execute gets mowed down. M80's fragging just peters out in a horrible way. They get held to just 3 total rounds in this game. It was MOUZ in control from start to finish. They win. They're going on to the semis. But man, if they had just drawn different and M80 got to start on the CT side, I think they could have done it. And so my biggest takeaway is not that, well, they lost, that was the inevitable result. It's no, M80 walked out into their first playoff environment and nearly beat a top 5 team in the world. That is astounding for the fact that this roster is ranked like 30th in the world. They were just an also-ran, sometimes edition in Tier 1 international events. They hadn't really done anything since Lake had joined. Lake himself was someone who notoriously struggled in international lands. They defeated a lot of those accusations here. And yeah, online group stage. Can they reproduce these results? Probably not. But you can see the path forward where they're really developing their talent. Sin and Slacks are excellent pieces. Sin's a great in-game leader. Slacks is honestly a very good opera for his level. Lake and Hext are just a fucking steal of a rifling duo. And Swisher does his job as a support, and he brings good vibes. The vibe around this team is excellent. And they nearly beat MOUZ. That's an insane result. Hats off to M80. You made North America and frankly Germany proud in this moment. 2 regions that are by no means at their peak right now. And there's just a world. There was a world where you could have done it. And again, just to reiterate, I don't have any faith in MOUZ right now to beat Vitality. They would have to prove me very wrong tomorrow. But their T-sides just look awful. And I think Vitality aren't going to make the mistakes twice that they made in Cologne. Alright, let's switch gears. G2 versus Faze, otherwise known as if you're a Faze fan like me. This series had all of the just trappings to be a classic. It could have gone 3 maps. It should have gone 3 maps. But Faze, they continue to do Faze things when you least expect them to. Brokey and Frozen, just not the same beast they were in the group stage. Faze in general really lacked in firepower throughout most of the series. Meanwhile, G2 frankly are leveling up in front of our eyes. This was easily Heavy God's best playoff series since he joined the team. Hunter looks incredible as a caller. Yeah, Furia have a tough task tomorrow. There's no way around that. Inferno was a wash. 13-5, G2's game all the way. Faze had no semblance of CT side cohesion, fragging, or otherwise any kind of impact. Frozen was the only player to get double-digit kills in the first half, and he went 10 and 11 doing so. Meanwhile, Hunter was putting MOUZ in a cannon and shooting him at whatever problem was in front of him. MOUZ participated in 11 of 12 opening opportunities in this first half, and he went 7 for 8 while doing so. And while that's not exactly the highest conversion percentage, it's still insane how hard dedicated entry MOUZ was and how successful he was despite that. Jacob did not really convert to the playoff environment in a way we had expected. He really struggled in this first half. And in general, it was just, Faze just took forever to get online. Kerrigan couldn't get any kills, Rank couldn't get any kills, Brokey couldn't get any kills. It was only really towards the end that we saw some whispers of good play, but Faze swapped sides to their T side and couldn't do fuck all while there. I want to talk a little bit about some stats now that Faze are exiting, courtesy of Bob Babinski over on Twitter. Hey guys, did you realize that even though Elise was 100% the problem here, and he was easily their worst CT side player for his star level, and how he couldn't do nothing but die on CT side and put Faze into 5v4s that they couldn't win? Yeah, so Faze had the worst 5v4 conversion rate of any team at this event. They had the worst overall CT side win rate as well. So we sacrificed Elise, who is a monstrously better T-side player than Jacob, at least right now, for the sake of vibes, and those vibes improved exactly fuck all nothing on the CT side. Hashtag noticing. Now, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, that's not very fair to Jacob. It's his first event with this team. It's his first time playing in a LAN playoff. It's his first time Tier 1, first time. I get that. However, I'm an Elise fan. I'm allowed to be bitter. Fuck off. I thought things were cooked going into Dust 2, but then Faze and G2 put up a fucking classic match for us to enjoy. Regardless of outcome and the fact that I wanted Faze to win, this is one of the most entertaining maps I've seen in quite a while. If you're gonna go back and watch any single game from today other than that Mirage from M80, you should watch this one. One thing I just kind of want to put into your guys' minds for a sec, this is the first time we've had a major crowd in an event since I Am Cologne, so it's been like a full month since we've had Counter-Strike in a massive arena, and the crowd vibes were fucking immaculate. The way they were popping off when both teams were doing wonderful shit just really added to just the gravitas of the moment, and Faze and G2 really just delivered. They went band for band almost this entire game. It wasn't until the very end of overtime where Faze really dropped off. There were just huge runs where both teams swung the lead massively. You know, Faze, they won the early game on their T side. The pistol round, they converted the first 3. And then G2 put up 5 straight with Heavy God playing just incredible anchoring, good rotates from Sampayas and Maddies. MOUZ just hitting every single headshot. But then Faze countered at the end of their first half. They won 3 straight back. They lost the final round of the half. You know, just is what it is sometimes. But they converted the second half pistol and ran away with the early game momentum once again. Some incredible highlights along the way, like Rain having this great 1v2 clutch on round 15. This was a huge swing of momentum, as it stopped G2 kind of cold in their tracks economically for at least one more round. But once G2 got on the board, they just took full control of this game. Again, from a 10-6 deficit to G2 leading the game with map point, series point up 12-10. Along the way, Heavy God with just this momentum-shattering 1v3 clutch. Just stuck in middle against all odds, fighting in the lower tunnel, just finding headshots on the cap players, just navigating into the 1v1 against Rain effortlessly. Heavy God plays out of his mind in this game, ends with 30 kills and 21 deaths of 1.4 rating. Maddie's backing him up with his best game in G2 so far with 31 kills of his own. Heavy God was just lights out both sides, hit impact with the op in overtime. He could do no wrong. Honestly, playing like a Robs-esque kind of impact in this game. And I love the pace and just the ballsiness of Hunter's calling throughout his T-sides here. They get match point, and I don't even hesitate. They full send a hard B spawn straight into the bomb site. And it's only because Rain, who was Faze's worst player throughout most of this game, really leveling up into overtime, he gets a great 4K with the help of Brokey holding down the B site. Faze finally break the streak of rounds at 6 for G2, making it an 11-12 scoreline going into the final round of regulation. In this round, Maddies gets a great opener onto Jacob, and suddenly G2, they're frozen. They're just holding strong outside of long, seeing what Faze might react, and just this moment of impeccable timing comes out, where Frozen's going to get exploratory. He's going to push up top mid. Meanwhile, it's Maddies on low HP who's going to sell like a rotate fake through T-spawn. They completely go by each other. The timing couldn't have been closer. Maddies goes all the way around through spawn, into B tunnels, pushes out, dies to Rain, which gives Faze the intel that there's no B push. Meanwhile, G2 are using it as the fake to springboard into their A push. Meanwhile, Frozen is already wrapped around into long A before their push has even begun, and he can hit this impossible backstab to cut the game back, force things to overtime, keep the game alive for Faze. Frozen continues riding that momentum, with Kerrigan right behind him, also top fragging into these first rounds of overtime. Faze take 2 of the first 3 on their CT side before we swap. It's a 13-14 scoreline, and at this moment, I'm convinced we're going to a map 3. It's another one of these just late round situations where Faze are forced into a late A split. It's a 2v3. G2 are just trying to rotate in and make something work here. Maddie's trapped in the cross smoke on CT. Heavy God taking the rotate around to long. Kerrigan on cap. Brokey on site. Rain at car. Heavy God picks up the AK, drops the op, just silences Rain at car. Meanwhile, that activates Maddies to start pushing up ramp slowly while Heavy God based the shot out of Brokey. Brokey goes down. It's Kerrigan in a 1v2 against G2's 2-star riflers, and Kerrigan stands proud on Cat. Hits the first headshot, an immaculate shot on the Maddies, lays him down. Heavy God jumps on the bomb, gives it a tap, takes a swing into Kerrigan, hits Kerrigan down to 1 HP before Kerrigan gets the 1-tap headshot, winning the round. Match point. Kerrigan, the IGL, the fucking clutch minister when he needed them most. And that would be the final round that Faze win in the series. That's insane. That's just like that's like some cinematography shit. That's like some movie shit. Heavy God, Maddies, MOUZ, Sampayas, take your pick. G2 started firing on all cylinders. Meanwhile, the guns for Faze just fell silent. There were a handful of moments. Maybe Brokey could have eked out a godlike clutch on the B side, but it just couldn't come to fruition. Too many opening advantages given up. Huge multi-kills given up at inopportune times. G2 put Faze in a chokehold for 6 straight round wins to close out the series 2-0 and eliminate them and get that date with Furia in the semifinals tomorrow. And probably my biggest takeaway, as someone who's not exactly the biggest G2 fan in the world, is that if you're not a G2 fan, this is a G2 team you should be scared of. This is a G2 team to fear. If you are a G2 fan, this is a G2 team that's worth believing in. You guys haven't had that for quite a while. I don't know what the ceiling is for this roster or Hunter as an IGL, but fuck, they got shooters. There's no way around that. If you guys enjoyed this kind of coverage, you can show me by leaving a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. How many 10K subs by the end of the year? Thank you to Skins Monkey for sponsoring this video. Check the top link in the description. You go to their website, trade over there. Let them know I sent you their way. Thank you to Skins Monkey. Thank you to my channel members, JesseTiv, Milan Berta, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, PTR, BOGs, Cody Foxworthy, Vegt. I'm Flashbang, Snowy White, Rowdy, LBKcs, Snax Enjoyer, Crunchy Water, zerotwocs, drudenae, chron, Gano, Devvrat Singh, Zyro, and Clyde Mead. If you want to go to the channel member, you can just link to double $5 make a name of the video just like this, as well as a custom owner community Discord. Follow me on Twitch and Tuesday, LionHeartZ. See you guys soon in another video. Peace.